Clifton was a very lovely village when I first came to live here in 1946. I was in the WLA, the Women's Land Army. I met another person at Liverpool Station. Her name was Ivy. We had missed our train, so we had a long wait for the next one. Ivy and I were both going to Toddington in Bedfordshire for training for land work. After a month, we were sent to Clifton. Now, we both came from Liverpool and we were used to electric lights. Oh, not in Clifton. Clifton House had electric, but only a few houses had it also. Most of the cottages had gas lights or mantles, which you had to light. They were a small candle with a mesh over. There wasn't many houses with water plumbed in. One had to go outside to a tap in the yard. Most cottages were in rows of 4 or 6 in a yard. There were some council houses built in Stockbridge Road, Broad Street and Hitchin Lane. Had about 6 of them. Hitchin Lane had about 6 of them. We live in a Clifton house. We were very lucky. We had heating in the hostel. I think he came from a boiler we had, so we were able to have bath and shower when we wanted, even though there was always a queue. We had plenty of land at the back of Clifton House if we wanted to play tennis or have a ride on the swing, etc., or just go for a walk in the grounds. I and many of the girls did our courting walking around the grounds or walking down by the rivers. There used to be a lot of lovely places in good weather where most courting couples went. It was different in the colder weather. We stayed in the hostel. One of the things the men and youths used to moan about was they hadn't got a football field.
How many of you lived in Clifton House? In Clifton House?
In Clifton House, I lived there for 3 years.
How many people lived there with you?
40.
40 of you in that house?
40 girls.
40 girls in the house?
Yeah. I've also been thinking of the village. It was quite a lot bigger, as the borderline of Clifton went from near the river bridge in Shefford and to the borderline at Broad Street, Henlow. Also, the people were happy in Clifton. We were still on ration books for food and clothes. We used to have to go to Mrs. Baxter's butcher's shop. Also, there used to be Fred Milton. His shop was in Langford, but Ernie Freer used to deliver Fred's meat to quite a lot of customers in the village. Also, milk was delivered by hand. Most people left the jugs or bowls on the back step. We had milk cans with measures that customer wanted. We didn't deliver many bottles. It was a job to get glass bottles. Plastic wasn't even made then. There was toilets at the back of the houses, either in their barn or a shed, and that was a bucket with a wide piece of wood with a hole in the middle. The women, didn't complain. That's what they had been used to. I complained after I got married. That's how it was. Also, one did complain. The men used to come and empty your bucket in the middle of the night. Shops in the village was Stan West and his wife, Mabel. They had a paper shop in their front room and a sweets. They sold sweets and everything. In one of the cottages in New Road. It was lovely. A shop facing the pond was a man's haircut shop. I couldn't think of Barbara.
Hairdressers, yeah. Okay.
Then that went to Jill Rogers. She had it as a fruit and vegetable plus flower shop. Also in the village we had 4 pubs, fish and chip shops 2, Taylor's Bakery. That shop went to 2 bakeries, then a wool shop, post office and groceries plus 2 more grocery shops, lemonade factory owned by the Harwoods, who used to live in the White House. The lemonade factory was on the corner of Grange Street, which is called Links Way now.
You mentioned you sort of came from Liverpool. I've never been to Liverpool. I can hold my hands up for that. And coming from obviously a town to a small village, even now it's a small village, must have been a bit of a shocker. I mean,
well, no, I was only a kid.
Yeah. Well, you were 16.
I was 16.
But even so, I mean, I remember.
But we were still kids, more than what they are these days.
Because I remember when I was at school, I went to a very small school in a small village, then went to a bigger school in a bigger town, and the difference I found, even that was what the 70s, going to the town was a difference. Being a country bumpkin then.
Life is different in a town.
Yeah,
you've got
very much
more
so.
noise. The trouble with me was, it used to be very foggy in the mornings.
In Liverpool.
Yeah.
Did they?
And
so what did your mum and dad do in Liverpool? Did they?
My dad worked in the railway. He went to work in the Great Western Railway.
Okay.
And he used to be a carter. Well, they had their stables across the water. They used to go over every day across the water, and the carters had great big wagons behind the horse. It was a Shetland, what's these great big horses?
Yes, Shire horse.
Shire horses. And my dad used to break them into the reins and going on the ship over to Liverpool, you see, because this was all stuff he had to take to Liverpool.
Your mum, I guess your mum didn't work then, because women probably didn't work, did they? Or did
No,
she?
yeah, they looked after the children.
Looked after the children.
But
Yeah.
then my dad got hurt in the war.
Okay.
He was in hospital for over 3 years. And in them days, you got 16 weeks sick pay. Then you got nothing at all. So they were living on their savings, I can always remember.
And how many children did they have as well? Was you?
Mum had 7 children.
7 children.
Yeah. And as I said, there was this post office book, and it was dark brown, like a leathery sort of thing, and I said, "What's in that book, Mum?" So she said, "Mind your business, and you'll be told no lies," which is true. And then I saw my dad write it on a piece of paper so that she could draw it out. And then when it was nearly gone, she went to the school to see if she could get herself a job. In the kitchens anywhere. And she did for a little while, but she had to give it up. It was too much.
Too much.
Yeah. So, because she had a bad heart.
Okay.
And she managed. My brother, I got one brother went in the army, and he used to send money home.
He was older than you?
Yeah, there was my elder sister she went to live with my grandmother because my auntie had died. She was the same age as my sister. And my grandmother was ever so ill over it. So my elder sister went to let my grandmother think that was Auntie Ada, you know. And I had a brother that got killed. And there was Ronnie and Flo. They were both older than me. And then I had Harry and Joan.
Who were younger than you?
They were younger than me.
So you were the middle one, were you?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, so it was me, when I went to the Land Army, Mum said, I want half of your wages to help to pay the bills. So I said, all right, I've always been like it. If I can help, I will help. I didn't know how much I was going to get. And I did honestly give her half my wages.
How much did you get?
When I first went in there, £1 something.
A week?
Yeah.
Okay. That was fine. There was quite a bit of money then, but it's...
Yeah, but you got a lot. I mean, I used to think, as I say to my grandchildren, they expect a £5 each a week now. I had twopence a week of my grandparents.
Pocket money.
Yeah. But,
I mean, money's changed completely differently, yeah. But I mean, did you get, when you came down to Clifton, you stayed at Clifton House, did you get your board and lodgings paid as well as the...
That was taken out of the wages before you got it.
So you still got your pound and got £1?
Yeah, it was something. I had to give Mum half of it, whatever it was.
So you used to give Mum sort of half a pound?
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Well, I did until I got married. Well, she didn't have half. When I got engaged, she said, only give me half of what you're giving me. And I did till the day I got married.
Okay. So,
see, and my younger sister worked at Vernon's football.
Oh yeah, football balls, yeah.
See, but she never had to. Before I went in the Land Army, I worked at Evans Medical Supplies, and I had to give my mum my wage packet unopened.
So how old were you when you first started working at Evans?
14. That's
14.
when you went and left.
That was when you left school, wasn't it? Straight away you left school.
Because we had 2 years, we didn't have no schooling as such. We used to go to people's houses for an hour.
Okay.
And they used to let their parlour off, as they call them. And we used to go, you know, there, and they came to my mum's house.
So it was like private tuition even?
It was still school.
Yeah, but yeah.
And as one lot came out, another lot was outside waiting to come in.
A bit like the classrooms at my school. So you said you had a good education.
Yeah, well, I did.
Yeah, which is...
Because
a lot of people didn't.
We had... Yeah, but it was homework.
Yeah, but...
and my dad used to make sure we did our homework.
Well, that's not a bad thing. I remember my dad did, and I mean, that was the 60s.
My brother put his underneath the springs of the bed. And when he got them out, where the springs had gone and somebody sit on them, that had gone through the paper. So he did get his backside slapped.
Good. So he deserves to. Better sticking books under the bed.
Well, that's what he did. He hated school. But on the other hand, he did do well in life.
How did you come from working for Evans Medical? What actually happened to get you to come and join the Land Army?
I was always off work because I'd always got bronchitis.
Oh, had you?
Because the air was no good to me.
In Evans Medical
in
offices?
Liverpool. In Liverpool itself.
So
it was like a smog. A lot of that was.
So did Mum or Dad say, I think you better go to join the Land Army?
No, my dad was in hospital because he was through the war. Because the war had finished when I went to the Land Army.
Yeah.
And he didn't have nothing to do with it. It was the doctor.
So the doctor said, you better get your backside down to Tony.
No, the doctor just turned around and said to my mum, I can't do no more for her. You'll have to move. And Mum said, we can't afford to move. See, because she said with Bob being in hospital and that, and So he signed my papers with me. Mum wouldn't have nothing to do with them.
Okay.
You're telling a lie. That's all you're getting off of her. You're telling a lie. So they went and they came back. They were taking me. And the men hadn't started coming back to England after the war. They were still wherever they
In
were.
transit or whatever. So it was purely by chance you ended up in Bedfordshire.
That was it.
So you
And
ended up,
I was in Bedford couple of months,
Okay.
and then I was told to go to the office in Bedford. So I did, and there were these three tubby women, you know, with the thick costume jackets on and their hats. What's your name? And I told them, and they said, we're going to give you a train coupon to pay for your fare to go to Liverpool. I said, please, I don't want to go. And that said, well, you'll have to go, one said. And the lady in the middle said, hang on, why don't you want to go? I said, I've got a sister in the Land Army, and she's been in it for 3 years. I said, and she'll never let me live this down. And she banged the table, she said, I've got one just like that. She said, so I said, oh, because I was scared. Because that bag, you know, everything went up and down. And she said, I'll tell you, my dear, you go back to your hostel and I will get in touch with every person that you've worked for and see what they think. Well, I never heard no more from her, but they stopped me £10, 10 shillings in my wages.
I was very naughty of them. So
I'm still doing the same work and everything.
but you're getting 10 shillings less.
But getting it, and so Mum had to have 5 shillings less in her money.
So what was the routine in the mornings for this when you were at the Clifton house?
Well,
You know, how did the day start? I guess you're up at sort of.
They got us
6
up.
o'clock.
We were supposed to start work at 7, so we got up about 6. They had the bell. Oh, no, that bell. I did swear about it. I did, honestly. And it was always in my ear, jingling along every morning. And yes, I worked with the other girls until one day one of the heads from the agricultural people came and said they were desperate for milkers. They hadn't got, and they had to kill some cows because if you don't milk them,
That's right. After a certain time.
it makes them milk. So Ivy and I said we would go. So we went to Ravenston. And we were taught how to milk a cow and all the different things, how to clean them and everything, you know. And then we were sent back to Clifton. And there's a Mr. Strawn's had got a farm at Orchard Farm, I think it was called. And milk his cows. They were machine milking. That's the first time we'd seen
It'll be
them.
very different to what they do now, though.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Well, all you got was you got these 4-leg tubes with a tinny sort of material around the tubes, and you put them near a cow's udder and that grab them. You see, sometimes it didn't always work. You had to take them off and fix them on yourself. And they used to, you know, do the job, and then we had to go. When they'd finished, there was nothing coming in because you had the glass bowl up here and it showed you the milk coming in and that. But when it stopped, then you go and take them off the cow, see? Because it was suction
Like a vacuum thing.
all the time.
So
And then we had to strip them because if there was any milk left in their udders, they'd be ill. And they'd send all the milk wrong.
So how many cows did you have to milk a day?
Oh, I never counted. You don't count them.
Hundreds?
Not hundreds, no.
But sort of.
But It depended who you were working for. Some men, some farmers, if they were a proper milk farm and nothing else, you had quite a lot of cows to milk. But these was about 30 cows.
So 2 of you did 30
So
cows.
two of us did
15,
them. And then we saw they was all right. We pull the lever and they used to open the gate at the bottom, used to open, and they'd walk out into the fields. See, then we'd have to clean all up and disinfect everything, and then fill the troughs with food for the next milking. And this is how it went on, morning and night.
So you used to milk them twice a day?
Yeah. And then we were there for quite a while, and then the boss's wife had had enough. She was leaving him and the family because he was spending her first husband's money. Her first husband had died, and this man had took to drink, and he wouldn't pay us. He hadn't got no money, he said. So we said, right, we're going to stay here till you do. And we sat at the bottom of the road, that joined the main road. So we sat down there, everybody could see us. And he came out one day and he said, there's your money. And that was that. We left there.
So you were getting good money?
We got better money.
Better money.
In there, but then we had to give the hostel board money. And then I had to put my mum's money back up.
Yeah.
Must have been nearly 3.
3 years.
And we did the milk rounds. That was Stamford, Southall, Broome, Shefford, Clifton and Henlow. We didn't have many in Clifton and Henlow because Frankie Watts, Minnie Watts, Frank's sister, that was their boundary. See, because they used to have cows.
So it was a fair area to deliver to.
Oh yeah.
And
it was all this can, and what we used to do, you didn't have a car licence or tractor licence, and that good job you didn't. Because Southall, you've got this one long row of council houses. Ron used to drop me at the beginning with me can, and then he used to go up here, and then I used to go along here to there. My can would be empty. He knew how far you would go, and then I used to drive the car up to there, say, where Ron had finished, and he'd get a full one again to go ahead, like hopscotch, going along, and that's how we used to do it. But
that must have been a long old day as well, delivering milk. She must have started.
You never thought about it.
No.
And the cows, I had to go and get the cows right down Stockbridge Road in the meadow. And there was Bob, the dog. That was a good dog. That did keep those cows in. And I reckon Johnny Milton used to buy all the cows other people didn't want, because bless their hearts, then they were really bad. One only got 2-3 legs to walk on, and they've got one hanging up here, sort of thing. And there was something wrong with them. Not that it made any difference in the milk.
No.
It was just their bones and that.
Probably easy to catch.
No. The poor things used to come hobbling along. Well, Ron used to milk all them that were perfect.
Oh, did he used to get all the
And I used to get all the other ones. And he'd say, listen to her. I would say, come on, darling. I know you must be in pain, but let your milk go. Come on, for Auntie Glad.
So, when did you first meet Clifford?
Anyway, he was working for Skips down the joint. I went to work for him, and I'd only been here a little while. And he turned around and said, hello, Scouse. my mate's going to marry you. And I said, pardon? And he said, my mate's going to marry you. And I said, no, he's not. And I said, I'm not going to marry no village strip. So he said, oh, you know, I said, no. And I thought, the cheek of it, you know. Anyway, that night, we only had the Golden Lion to go into after we'd had our meal and got washed and that. So I was sitting there with my orange juice, and all of a sudden, this voice said, so you're not going to marry what did I call it?
Village strip.
A village strip. So I just went like that. I went, I can't change my mind, you know. And he just smiled up at me and he said, you're a honey. And he went off.
What was he doing for a living then?
There used to be fields. New Road wasn't all that long. And there used to be fields there, and that's where I know we were going over the bridge, because they had a bridge. And he was on a tractor. And I told these, well, they were there, they heard it. And they said, Glad, that bloke's on that tractor. I said, I don't want to know. And they said, yes, you do, you're going red, you know. And this was how you talk, see. One day I went in, carrying this, and I was tired. Put it on the table in the kitchen. And there stood Mrs. Erskine and a policeman. I've been waiting for you, young lady. I said, pardon? I've been waiting for you. So I said, for me, and Mrs. Erskine standing there going, she was, see. So he said, where you're going on, you're going round up in Clink. I said, what for? So he said, for what you do. And I said, I milk cows. Don't be so stupid, he said. I mean, what you do in your own time. And I said, nothing, we just go and sit in the pub and have an orange juice. So he said, don't keep answering me back. So Mrs. Erskine said, hang on. She said, Gladys, something you've done with the other girls, and the other girls said it was your idea. And I'm thinking, oh God, what have I done? And you can't think of anything. And he said, you've been interfering with other people's property. I said, no, I only go near people's property to give them the milk. He said, will you forget about your job? I'm talking about in your own time. And I said, I'm still not with you. And he said, you put flowers on other people's graves that got nothing to do with you. Oh, I said, yes. I said, there's such a lot of ground behind Clifton House. Well, you could see the playing field used to be. And there was all wild flowers going round all these trees. Well, we used to walk round the graveyard on a Sunday when we got nothing to do and read all the headstones, like a lot of people do. And I said, do you know, we could put some flowers on these. They're very, very old. Nobody's gone near them. They still stand there, some of them. And I said, we could put some flowers on. But they said, well, we haven't got no vases. So we went looking round for jam jars. And we went and put these flowers on, put the water in and put it on. It wasn't on the ground. It was on the front bit of the...
On like the plinth?
Yeah, you know, the headstone. And we put them there, see? and that's where. Now I don't know who's complained. If it was the family of the person, well, they should be ashamed of themselves. They wanted them off then. They never bothered to put any on. But it was lovely just to see. The churchyard wasn't very big in them days. We've had to gone further and further and further, you know, different times, both ways. And that was it.
So you got into trouble for doing a good
So
thing,
I
basically.
got there, and Mrs. Erskine said to him, well, she said, I think you're as bad as the village people. Well, I was friendly with a couple of the girls that lived in the village, and they didn't know nothing about it. So it's just been somebody trying to cause trouble that didn't like the land girls.
I mean, that's pretty. No, that's pretty down. I mean, you did a sort of a good deed, I would say. I mean, surely people should thank you for that rather than.
Well, and
get into trouble.
sometimes now, I go to the churchyard every week to my husband's grave and his mother's and his grandmother's. And, you know, you look at the graves there and there is a lot of people, all right, that's their business. But when they are hundreds of years old,
Yeah.
because they look bare and there's all those flowers that nobody could see.
So was it after the explanation you got away?
I got away with
got
it
away
because
with it.
Mrs. Erskine, when she heard it all, she turned round and said, well, Mr. Gaisley, I think if I was you, I'd go and do what you're supposed to do.
Catch proper criminals.
You know.
How long before the engagement and the wedding?
We got engaged. I'd only been going with him a little while.
He's a fast mover then, was he?
He was.
Yeah.
He wanted, I didn't know why. I said, I don't want to be engaged. He said, why? Don't you love me then? And I said, of course I do. He said, well, I wrote to your father and asked him his permission.
Of course, that was a done thing then, wasn't it? Or it was manners. I think it still happens a little bit now.
Yeah.
Perhaps not as much.
So he said, and my dad said you couldn't, I couldn't get married till I was 21. And my daughter is going to be married in a church and dressed in a white dress. He said, you know what that means. And if she's not, he said, there won't be no Clifford Dawson.
So it was 1951 the wedding, was it?
49.
49. So you were 19 then,
Yeah,
not 21.
no.
So you
Well,
jumped the gun.
you see, the Land Army finished.
Okay, so the Land Army finished. So you had to find yourself a job down here then, did you?
Well, no, because it was, they finished, it finished in June. They were closing hostels, not all of them. The Land Army didn't all finish, you know, just shut the shop sort of thing. It was they closed a hostel down. And I finished in the Land Army on the 28th of May, and I know that because that was my mum's birthday.
Okay.
And I got married on the 4th of June. And the Land Army finished at the end of June, see. And why they picked the 4th of June, it was Whit Saturday. And you had, the workmen had the Saturday, Sunday and Monday off. They got paid for it. So them that could afford it, which wasn't many of them, my sisters and my brothers was there. But my relations, like my Auntie Peggy, she couldn't come. She'd got 3 young children. And them that couldn't afford it, they couldn't come. But the next day after my wedding, I had to go home with my husband, and my Auntie Sarah and another one of my aunties, they did this great big reception. So that them that weren't the nearest of the family, they came to have
So it was a second wedding
a
reception.
second wedding reception. I had a 4-year wedding cake. My mother-in-law made it. She used to be a cook. And we had the third tier, see, and took it to Liverpool. And everybody went mad, and nobody had so many salt cellars and cruet sets as what I had.
What was wedding gifts?
They're the wedding gifts. They couldn't afford it. They didn't, in them days, you didn't have chance to save.
No. So how many years have you lived in the house you're in now? When did you move
My son, who lives in Dorset, was his first day at school. He was 5.
So that would have been
He was 5 on Christmas. He's a Christmas Day baby.
So 1951, so he'd been 1956.
I don't know, I can't count.
So he was born in he was born in 1951.
No.
Is that not Bob?
No. Bob was born in 1951.
Okay.
Marion was 53. 58.
1958, so you moved in there.
And then
so 1963 you moved in there then. If he was 5.
Yeah, he was dead 5.
1963. God, I was 1 year of age then. Worrying.